This is probably the best sports luxury sedan that we've ever driven. It certainly looks the part, it sounds like a symphony, yet somehow it's not quite German enough. Well, that's probably because it isn't German at all. The Lexus IS-F is a product from the land of the rising sun. And while the Japanese are usually known for products with unsurpassed reliability and high levels of craftsmanship, they're not really known for their ability to build German cars. Yes, we know you can't expect the Japanese to build German cars, but in order for them to take market share from the German manufacturers, they either need to change the perceptions of their target market or simply emulate the Germans themselves. And the latter option is clearly the path of least resistance. Lexus has a long and proud reputation of engineering cars of superior luxury, style. They're often sporty, but they've never really taken on the heavyweights. But all of that is about to change. Because with the IS-F, the Japanese are finally hoping to join the Bundesliga. The heavyweights, of course, are those sports sedans that rewrote motoring history when they first appeared. The BMW M3, Audi RS4 and the Mercedes-Benz C63 AMG. In the early years of their existence, these near mythical cars managed to bring a purity of driving pleasure and levels of performance to a buying public that never expected cars like this to go like that. As Audi, BMW and Merc unleashed these mighty machines on the unsuspecting planet, speed in itself took on new meaning. What was once a supercar became just a fast two-door, as these powerful four-door sedans ridiculed what was once the holy grail of acceleration, the magical sub-5 second run to 100 km/h. Now there's a new player wanting to join in the fun, but taking on the best and beating them at a game they invented will take something exceptionally special. And as with any performance car, its abilities start with its kilowatts and newtons. The IS-F delivers 311 kilowatts of power and over 500 newton meters of torque. Not only is that enough to leave huge chunks of ripped up tarmac in your wake, it's also more than that of the M3 and the RS4. But then again, it's not quite enough to match the magical Merc. It doesn't quite match the Barnstormer from Stuttgart, but does it really matter? The M3 has taken on the C63 many times and beaten it many times as well. Granted, there are instances where the Merc simply pulverizes anything in its way and leaves bits of debris as it blasts past. But essentially, you have to realize that you can't go much faster than fast. And in a sports sedan with space for 5 adults, one has to be realistic about the limits. Sure, the Merc is a smidgen quicker to 100 km/h, but the fact remains, the IS-F is good enough, it's powerful enough, and it's fast enough to join these gods of the tarmac in the rarefied airway up there where normal sedans only dream of going. 0 to 100 flies by in just 4.7 seconds, while the top speed is limited to 270 km/h. Why on earth they insist on limiting it is beyond us, but those are the facts. What's harder to convey, however, is the bullish manner in which the IS-F delivers its power when it goes on one of those high-speed bombing runs. The way the revs just shoot up to the red line, the adrenaline surge that fills the driver, and the amazing sound that thunders through the cabin as the massive V8 does what it was built to do. Power is driven to the rear wheels through the world's first 8-speed automatic gearbox. Now, while there's something quite novel about driving a car that has 8 gears, one has to wonder sometimes when is too much just too much. The 8 gears do make for extremely close ratios, which in normal cars could cut both ways. Firstly, the closer ratio mean that each gear effectively offers much more pull. But because they are so close together, you have to change gears more often, and changing gears costs time, but not in the IS-F. The Lexus gearbox slips from gear to gear so quickly and so smoothly that you hardly notice it at all. And the time lost with every gear change is negligible, to say the least. So in this case, too much is probably just right. But that is in stark contrast with the interior of this particular car. It looks as if Lexus had taken the interior of a stock IS-250 and tried their best to make it look performancy. We know that word doesn't really exist, but that's exactly what they've done. They've added a slap of fake silver carbon fiber to the middle console and a tickle of blue in places where you'd least expect it. The pedals now have a metal look on them, and there are a total of 14 IS-F logos strewn around the car. The result is disappointing, to say the least. Sure, it has a host of standard toys and fancy equipment, such as a centrally mounted touchscreen with full navigation, cruise control, a sunroof, and a multi-function steering wheel which boasts flappy pedals to change gears. But it just doesn't look classy, and it is nowhere near as good as the inside of an M3 or a C63 AMG. That's for sure. While the finish in the cabin might be a bit on the garish side, it does have one redeeming feature, or rather 14 of them, and all of them are connected to the Mark Levinson audio system. The result is audio which is almost as good as the soundtrack supplied by the mighty V8 that is the heart of this beast. The thing is, you can't always rev it beyond the 4000 mark, which is where pianissimo suddenly turns to molto fortissimo. And that's why the Mark Levinson system is so important. Hailed as a hero of all things audio, Levinson really knows how to get the best out of in-car audio. But somehow the Mark Levinson name isn't quite as well known as that of Bang & Olufsen, for instance. It just lacks that little bit of street cred that would make even the general public take notice. And that, in essence, is the problem with the IS-F itself. It is really very, very good, but it is an unknown quantity in the world of performance sedans. Sure, Lexus builds stunning cars, but they're seldom as good as those of its competitors. And while it might have the quality, together with the refinement and equipment, it just doesn't quite have the same name as the Germans do. Not yet, anyway. So given all of this, would we buy an IS-F? The simple answer is no. Don't get me wrong, it's still a very good car, despite it not having the same street cred as the German trio. But it's a Lexus, and in the IS-F, that definitely doesn't count against it.